You're listening to KWOU. Coming up next, the amazing, unbelievable adventures of Dr. Theophilius Crux, Ph.D., and his faithful companion Archibald, the Tasmanian emu. Isn't it dazzling how far we've come? Isn't it boggling how far we've yet to go? Isn't it strange that we haven't moved at all? My world is an escalator. You know the drill by now. I'll feature another creatively inclined colleague on the show for the express purpose of lightening the increasingly dark amount of work that some capricious, scruffy-headed fool placed on my shoulders, and for the implicit purpose of getting to spotlight their unique talent distinct from my moronic ramblings. This will be subsequently followed by a musical break, a 3-page foray into the festive frolicking of a few foolish Find My Soul types, and then a poem to end, because let us not pretend that this isn't still, at the end of all things, the amazing, unbelievable adventures of Dr. Theophilius Crux, Ph.D., and his faithful companion Archibald, the Tasmanian emu. So, if we are to follow through on this hollow brew that's been bubbling in my cauldron, and guzzle what I'm conjuring, wandering far, following suit that needs laundering, then sit your tired bones on down in the dust, and let your gun go ahead and rust, because sequestered away in the studio today we have Trinity Herr, they all shouted in despair, to answer a few delicately plucked injunctions functioning funkily to stump and scrunch one's forehead to. Trinity, how on earth are you?
Well, I'm on Earth.
That is factually true. So to begin, what are your pronouns? What are your nouns? And what are your adjectives?
My pronouns are she, her, hers. My nouns would be confluential.
That's an adjective.
Whatever. See, this is why I'm not good at this. Confluence, then, if that suits you better. I would also say coyote, and potentially, maybe that's it. Maybe the nouns are yet to be discovered. You know, maybe it's a new noun every minute.
Perhaps. Are you proud of what you did?
No.
What did the sunrise smell like as it rose up for you yesterday morn?
Cinnamon.
What is a frog's preferred choice of beverage?
Champagne.
Describe the contents of your desktop using only words beginning with the letter P.
Private.
How long have you been writing?
Too long.
Too long. What does inspiration feel like?
I don't think it exists.
You don't think it exists? Elaborate.
I think that inspiration and muses are a crutch people use to get out of hard work.
Well then, why do mysterious lights fly through the night sky when I am too tired to watch them?
Because you're not the center of the universe.
I suspected as much. How are you going to explain to your friends the large quantity of blackstrap molasses you have stored away in your bedroom industrial drums labeled Fortricia?
I'm not.
You're not?
They can draw their own conclusions.
That's true. I like drawing. Do you like drawing?
I do. My gun.
Conclusions. You draw your gun, I'll draw conclusions.
Okay.
What's one lie you were told about happiness?
That it's permanent.
Should I get a haircut?
No.
No. What is the concept of ambiguity's favorite color?
Opal.
You know, that's not too far off from what I was thinking. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful young princess in a castle on a hill. What sentence immediately follows the sentence immediately following the first one? And why does it mention a goat?
Well, got a little lost in your words there, to be honest.
I can repeat the question if you'd like.
Let's repeat the question.
Okay. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful young princess in a castle on a hill. What sentence immediately follows the sentence that immediately follows the first one? And why does it mention a goat?
The sentence is, she was a goat. And it mentions a goat because she was a goat.
That's a good reason to mention that you're a goat. Nope. Wrong question. Which animals are most overrated as comedic devices, and which animals deserve the limelight in their stead?
Monkeys are definitely overrated as comedic devices. I think what we should have instead are rats and any kind of rodent creature. Nutria and possum are also excellent choices.
I see. If you could pilot a mech suit, how would you avoid the military trying to conscript you? Alternatively, how would you capitalize on your lucrative skills as a mech suit pilot in the military?
Well, that's a great question. I would say that I would fake it till I made it.
That's good advice, especially in the military. What makes poetry more special than, say, nutrition facts?
I don't think it is more special.
Oh, interesting. An author, director, or creative of any kind that inspires you?
I like the Coen brothers.
The Coen brothers. That's a good
Brother,
pick.
Where Art Thou is probably one of the greatest films ever made
I
on
agree.
about 1,000 different levels, from story to language to music to just like the directorial shots. I could probably go on, but I won't. My other favorite movie is In Bruges, and anything written by Martin McDonagh, who also did Seven Psychopaths. All great.
We're going to be friends. 3 words. Rocket propelled, DoorDash, monkey.
No.
What is the answer to this question?
There aren't any answers to any questions.
What have we done? And more importantly, are you telling Mom?
I'm not telling Mom. And what we did is between us and no one else.
Very well. Why do you write, and what do you write?
I write because I don't like to speak, and I write what I see.
Oftentimes, I can grow to hate the things I love, to the point where it seems like everything is just a repetitive, senile 80s rock ballad playing through grainy speakers in the echoing void of a less than bustling Safeway deli section. How do you return to the love of something that you have lost? Is it possible?
I think we never stop loving things that we love. I think that our feelings can morph, but I think that there's a part of us that always retains that love. And when they play Living on a Prayer loud, I'm a sing along, especially if I'm drunk.
Grade the following items on a scale of 1 to 7 and 11/16. Gophers,
7 and 11/16.
Honda Civics,
2.4.
Oscar Wilde,
Right in the middle.
The Smell of Dead Grass,
Like 1,000.
Coca-Cola logo,
I think it's something that is nostalgic. It's a little bump, but I'd still only give it just a hair's breadth below Oscar Wilde, probably. Maybe above Oscar Wilde.
The Coca-Cola logo is objectively better than Oscar Wilde. The faint feeling of detachment from reality.
See, I wouldn't rate it very high, but I'm very familiar with it. So sometimes you just become accustomed to the things you're familiar with. I would say maybe 2/6.
2/6. And garter snakes.
Tied with gophers.
Tied with gophers. If life is a simulation, who is playing as you right now, and are they enjoying the experience?
Definitely not enjoying the experience. Who's playing as me? Probably the ghost of myself.
The ghost of yourself. What is the proper relationship between fiction and reality? What is the difference?
There is no difference.
There is. All these snappy comebacks. I can't even get a question out. Who would be best qualified to become the first prime minister of mildly off-putting mannerisms?
Probably myself.
Do you like abstract art?
Define like.
Is it fun to look at?
Define fun.
When was the last time you reminisced on your past?
Every minute is a new past, so constantly.
Where would a secret door to a magical realm be located on campus?
In the bottom of Bellamy Hall, there's this weird series of paintings about eyeballs. I'm pretty sure each one is a portal.
Ah, I did not know that. Is it like free to access?
Yeah, you just go in like through the bottom floor.
I need to see this eyeball gallery. Is meaning monetizable? Do your poems have any meaning you'd like to explain?
I think you can monetize meaning, but I don't think it's ethical. And
Are ethics monetizable?
they are, but it's not ethical to monetize ethics.
What a shame.
I know, right? Could probably make some money doing that, maybe. Probably not, actually. You don't want to take ethics advice from me, maybe. And no, I don't think I will explain meanings of my poems.
Very well. If you were trapped in the desert, what would the ominous figure in turquoise tell you as it drove by in a backhoe?
I wouldn't say anything at all.
And finally, is it possible to unbelieve something once you have believed it? And if so, do you find this show unbelievable?
Like love, once you believe something, that belief never goes away. And no, I do not find this show unbelievable.
And now, Poetry by Trinity Herr.
This first poem is called Wolf Light. Come to me by wolf light. I promise I'll look different then. More myself, yet more a stranger, and slow drip stalactite shadows. You can choose which piece of me is an excuse and which piece to love despite yourself. We're like dogs with a bone found from the woods, unsure if the remains are human or animal, both wanting to tongue the marrow into our mouths, neither willing to share. And this second poem is called Cinders. Sometime between the 5th or 6th Coors Light, we argue again over whether an empty beer bottle melts or evaporates in flames. But what's the difference when the burning is ours? Too long we've sat in tame silence, only to realize the fire has eaten itself to cinders. A petechiae of stars bruised the strip of sky over the river. Our knees have been touching for nearly an hour, and I ask for another beer when what I mean is, I'm too much to be loved in half measures and shivers of smoke. The last poem I'll share with you is called Winco Parking Lot, 3 a.m. Tuesday. In my headlights, a braless fat woman humps over her cart eating strawberries, juicy and unwashed from the jewel case. The seeded flesh, gnashed, stains her teeth and drains syrupy from the corners of her upturned lips. Down her chin, straight as the strap of the camisole sliding down her sun-pink shoulders. But suddenly, she looks up. Her wide, red-rimmed eyes dilate under the headlights. She stills. I shudder in the feral gravity of her glare and prickle when, unblinking, she raises another strawberry to her lips and bites hard.
We'll return to the world's sixth to last remaining revolution around itself, and the hapless chaps and chapesses flapping wildly around its atmosphere like discombobulated ducks after the break. You're listening to KWOU. Feeling lost? Great news! Every Friday at 5 p.m., DJ Great Blue Heron will take your hand and guide you through the musical maze, a magical labyrinth filled with adventure, danger, laughter, and friendship. Come along and join us for the musical adventure of a lifetime, if you dare to never return. Thank you. The 4 of them have exited the carriage now. At long last they had returned to the reminiscent roundabouts of Nexanath, where squatting quietly somewhere within its teeming mesh of multi-layered civilization, there were the capital I important hut clusters that Mrs. Sinshatter had at first ran from, but now returns to as prodigally as broccoli estranged from the stew. It was enough to bring a tear to a grown man's eye, but unfortunately, as they were informed by the guard at the border, they couldn't bring their tears with them into the city, as they were experiencing a severe sadness drought at the moment, and couldn't afford to support such emotional and physical outpourings. "A sadness drought?" exclaimed Fuchsia, ever confused and inexperienced with the absurdity of the world she had once thought she had come to terms with. "First the happiness, and now all the sadness is dried up too?" "Yes, I'm afraid that's the case, ma'am. I would be quite broken up about it myself, but that would be irresponsible of me as a civil servant. Fear hasn't run out, though, so I'm simply afraid that's the case." Mrs. Sinshatter smirked at Luce. "I guess you're fresh out of luck, Mr. Stand in the Rain." Luce smiled. "How depressing is that? I got it so bad I can't even be depressed." Augustine snorted. She wished she had it as bad as Luce, but couldn't say so for fear of vulnerability. The guard waved them through. "Other than that, though, welcome to Nexanath, where we put the A in front of void." Oh, I do believe those snoring scholars of common knowledge were dreadfully wrong. You can go back. Your past patiently waits for you, never leaving the place you left it. By all means, time moves on, but I suspect the past has little to nothing to do with time. Your old playground can rust over, become a latticework for lush long weeds, get bulldozed, decomposed, and rebuilt into a real estate complex with snappy branding and lackluster bathrooms, but in your mind, the ghost of the monkey bars still haunts you. The real estate thing is just a change in context, not a change in text. You cannot rewrite your story, and it certainly won't erase itself. Like some sort of MLA format purgatory, all you can do is revisit and reflect and remark and remember, endlessly referencing the same 3 ideas and citing your own paper as a source. You can't start over, but you can go back. And that's what they did. Despite their mutual suffering through all these travails and a common enemy in the form of Mr. Non-Causal Nihilism Brown himself, the 4 of them were not yet buddy-buddy as all squads seem to be portrayed. They are, still, just a collection of distinct individuals, verifiable space between them, simply bundled together by fate and thrown into the back of a carriage. And as the carriage stopped and the driver chewed his cashews, they silently went their separate ways, knowing subliminally they each had something to sort out for themselves. In a very real way, Nexanath is where it all began for them. The crossroads is where it started, but it wasn't the beginning. Things happened in Nexanath. Meaningful things, whatever that means. As they dispersed like chaff in the wind, the camera swoops up to signify their ignorance of loftier things, only to focus on Matt Brown, standing menacingly atop a gargoyle, reveling in the cliché, forging his anger into a wicked razor to cut them down to size. Soon the time would come. Here they are, facing their pasts, just as society vaguely recommends they do, with little to no justification for why or instruction for how. Like 4 pillars holding up some effusive dogma, or 4 primary elements composing the natural world, or 4 dimensions together graphing the movement of my eyes across this page, or the movement of your heart by the same measure. 1, Luce at the void. 2, Augustine at an office coffinicle. 3, Fuchsia alone yet again in the desert wastes beyond. And 4, Mrs. Sinshatter did not want to be here. Though she had walked to this spot uncoerced, she wished with every fiber in her petticoat that she could blame someone for it. to be ever on the annoying voice of reason that resisted every mood swing of this tumultuous demiurgic mindscape that some philosophers have deemed reality. At last she had come to her final form, indignant towards the intactness of her dignity. Why didn't the world be so tactless as to attack her? How dare it? In other words, she was quite unused to being unbothered, and that bothered her. But as the author through the narrator had admonished her those many days ago, the city moved on without her, irrespective of her whims. However she regarded the hut cluster before her, with greenhouse halls and stepping-stone walkways, there it was nonetheless, patiently waiting for her to agree with its being, or flee from its being. As choiceless as she was, it all boiled down to a choice. Mrs. Sinclair breathed heavily through the nose, straightened her posture, and charged headlong into the narrative, daring it to show its face. Meanwhile, Augustine stared down the nothingness which she had readily accepted all those years ago. A cold desk, a stiff chair, a hazy window, and a view, high above the world, in it but not of it, part of something more with every pen stroke in triplicate. Most of the office coffinical workers did not notice her, as they were all busy gathering their things, looting what they could, and fighting to the undeath for the limited amount of severance packages. Turns out the demand for death decreases significantly when everyone figures the end of the world will take care of it for them. Funny how the promises of a corporation imply the continuation of time, adhering with chthonic blindness to the notion of the lifetime warranty. Augustine could not believe herself. Had she really been a purveyor of this tepidity? But Augustine could not unbelieve herself either. You cannot destroy what you once were. Your shadow remains at your heels until you turn off all the lights. A coffinical worker finally noticed her brooding and approached. You better get out fast. There's no telling what'll happen to this building now that the word's out that death is defunct. Augustine glared at him and then sat down. Death's not defunct, just in low demand. And I already left a while ago, long before any of you rats started jumping ship. Oh. The worker fidgeted with his box of things. Okay, I don't really understand why you came back then. He wandered off. Augustine sighed. She didn't either. Contrastively, Luce knew exactly why he was now standing at the edge of the world, fishing pole in hand. But more on that later. Fuchsia had gone traipsing, as one must, into the desert, to scream at her creator. She felt like she had so many grievances to list, but the moment she took breath to begin, her mouth was dry and her mind was blank, as if her reasons destabilized as soon as they were observed. Does that mean they were never there? Or does it simply mean they were bad reasons, unable to exist in the Newtonian world outside of Fuchsia's head? In any case, she had come here. Might as well open up discussion to the table. The author hesitated to address his creation. This doesn't usually go well. Still, to offer her silence in exchange for her willingness to talk would be an even crueler blow than before, so he steeled himself for the meta-vulnerability he was about to experience and began his work. How are you? Fuchsia looked out over the sand. I don't know. Seems worse than knowing you're doing poorly. Well, maybe. Again, I don't know. In the interest of being honest, I'll say that I am resisting the urge to fix this, to pry into your mind and heart with 1,001 wise sayings and counseling questions, in order so that you can have some sort of epiphany that fixes everything. I myself wish that would happen to me, and I've had a lot of people try to do it, but it's a bit like walking into therapy and getting prescribed surgery. I'm rambling at the moment, sorry. It's okay, Fuchsia said. It's just nice to hear you talk. Oh, well, that's a relief. Sometimes I feel like all I can do is talk, and sometimes not even that. Are you the one who made the prophecy? Did you decide that the world would end? That's a question. Yes. Yeah, I did. It was one of the few pre-established premises of this whole idea. I thought its themes could only be properly explored in the face of abject, inevitable nothingness. Now that I say that, though, I think I may not have committed to that particular bit, and so now it just comes across as largely unnecessary. It's mildly disconcerting that you are just as confused by it as we are. At the risk of sounding dismissive, I think that's the point. Fuchsia was a little annoyed now. I think maybe you're just a bad writer, and you're passing it off as postmodern. It's not stream of consciousness, you just don't know what you're doing. Well, perhaps not. Then how am I supposed to trust you? It seems to me that you are entirely unreliable as a narrator and as an author. Your ethos seems to indicate that 8 pages of gibberish a day would be as authoritative as anything else. You're speaking out of both sides of your mouth, asking me to trust you, and actively undermining whatever scraps of trust you still have from people's suspension of disbelief. Either it's all sound and fury, or something needs to change. Thank you, I'll think about that. You're just saying that because you don't want to think about it. Yeah, I know. I really hope something better can come from you, Jasper, because at the moment I could really care less that the world is ending in 6 days. And that's a damn shame, because as ambivalent as you've made it seem, it's beautiful. I urge you to reconsider your impulse to undermine the things you set up and to destroy the things you create. The author gave no answer, for he was torn by what Fuchsia had said, and could not commit to even a simple reply. As Fuchsia walked away, shoulder back and disappointed, a poem could be heard, whispered on the desert winds. I write better in the dark. It helps me focus on the page. Distractions are so actionable, but actually disengage. I want to fall into this LCD, this glowing blue-lit god that I sacrifice my time to. No, I don't find it odd that we bottle up our souls into portable consoles. Yes, you failed to console us, but we will let you joystick control us. Where is that joy you promised me? I ought to opt for honesty. Self-esteem is honestly hard for me, losing steam before the harbor. See, this vessel wasn't built for open ocean, so give me a channel. I'll run it in record 2 times speed because that's all I can handle. You talk too slow. I've already moved on. I'm toxic, though, like a noxious glue gun, globbing my art and my craft together, giving out sick burns like underwaxed feathers. You fell for it. I can't believe it. I thought you were supposed to be a genius, but I guess your superior artistic vision and feeling allows you to see clearly the gullible on the ceiling. So what if it's sound and fury? Isn't that what you came for? Your memory'd be blurry, more cloudy than a rainstorm. All you want is my viscera, a few well-placed rhymes, and the feeling of meaning, not the article genuine. When you whine, I detest you. I would sooner digest you before you would ever just chew on a single line I gestured to. I want you to obsess. Only then will I give you meaning. Until then, my mangled English will be indistinguishable from screaming. Because this is what you wanted, so I'll singe my soul away. The shipwreck is undaunted, the emperor stowed away. This laptop is my island. Can you blame me? I can't swim. Put down the sword, pick up the violin, and patiently wait for him. Tune in next week for the next episode. Or don't. You are not compelled to. This is not me pretending to be ambivalent as a ploy to persuade you to do so. It is just me recognizing the powerlessness I have over you. What's that? I do have power over you. You've developed a parasocial bond with me, and I can exploit that for my own personal gain under the guise of engagement? Well, in that case, say it with me. I'm Jasper Beck, and this is The Amazing, Unbelievable Adventures of Dr. Theophilius Crux, Ph.D., and his faithful companion Archibald the Tasmanian Emu. You're listening to KWOU. Do you like astrology, the metaphysical, pop culture, and a good time? Tune in every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. to listen to Stars and Stones, only on KWOU.